Have you ever looked at a chessboard and felt both fascination and intimidation? Chess may seem complex, but its basics can be learned in the time it takes to drink a cup of coffee. This guide will break down the rules piece by piece, making chess simple and clear for everyone. Chess is for all ages and backgrounds, universally accessible and endlessly engaging. Get ready to unlock the ultimate mind sport and discover the strategist within you. In just 15 minutes, you'll learn everything you need to play chess, from setting up the board, to moving each piece, to understanding checkmate. This is a crash course for absolute beginners, with clear, friendly instruction and no fluff. Ready to start your chess journey? Let's begin. The chessboard is your world, a perfect 8x8 grid of 64 squares alternating light and dark. Always place the board so the bottom right square is light. Remember, light on the right. The central squares are the high ground, offering power and mobility. Understanding this landscape is the first step to mastering chess and launching your grand strategy. With the board correctly positioned, it is time to assemble your forces. Each player starts the game with an army of 16 pieces. These pieces are not all the same. They form a diverse team with different strengths, abilities, and values. Your army consists of 1 king, 1 queen, 2 rooks, 2 bishops, 2 knights, and a front line of 8 pawns. Your opponent has an identical set of 16 pieces in the opposite color. Traditionally, the colors are referred to as white and black, and one of the most fundamental rules of the game is that the player with the white pieces always makes the first move. Let's place these pieces on the board. The setup is symmetrical for both sides. Your 8 pawns form a protective wall across the second rank, row 2 for white, row 7 for black. They are your frontline soldiers, ready to advance and control the center. Behind this pawn shield, on your first rank, row 1 for white, row 8 for black, your more powerful pieces take their positions. The 2 rooks, which look like castle towers, are placed on the corner squares. Next to the rooks, you place your 2 knights, which often look like horses. And next to the knights, you place your 2 bishops. This leaves 2 empty squares in the center of your back rank for the most important pieces in your entire army, the king and the queen. Here is another simple rule to remember their placement. The queen always goes on the square of her own color. This means the white queen starts on the light central square, D1, and the black queen starts on the dark central square, D8. The king then takes his place on the last remaining empty square right beside his queen. Once both sides have set up their pieces in this mirror image formation, the board is ready for the battle to begin. Take a moment to look at this starting formation. It is a perfectly balanced state of tension and potential. Every piece is protected, and the armies are poised for conflict. From this initial setup, an almost infinite number of possible games can unfold. Your task, as a commander, is to break this symmetry in your favor. You will need to carefully develop your pieces, moving them from their starting squares into more active and influential positions on the board. This initial arrangement is the calm before the storm, the starting point of every chess journey, from a friendly game at home to a world championship match. The pawn, your most numerous piece, is the soul of chess. Though small, pawns form your front line, control key squares, and shape your strategy. They move forward 1 square but capture diagonally. On their first move, they can advance 2 squares. Never underestimate a pawn's power. With teamwork, they can decide the game. These quiet heroes hold hidden potential. Meet the rook, your army's heavy hitter, shaped like a castle tower. Rooks start in the corners, but once the board opens, they dominate entire rows and columns. They move any number of squares in straight lines, horizontally or vertically, as long as the path is clear. Rooks are especially powerful on open files, slicing deep into enemy territory. Capturing is simple. Move to an enemy square along a straight line and remove it. 2 rooks working together can control the board and decide games. Early on, focus on developing your rooks. Get them out from behind pawns and onto open lines. Once active, rooks become the backbone of your attack and defense. Now the knight, the only piece that leaps over others. Knights move in an L-shaped 2 squares in one direction, then 1 square perpendicular. From the center, a knight can reach up to 8 squares. On the edge, its power drops. Its unique jump lets it attack through crowded positions, making it unpredictable. Knights capture by landing on an enemy's square at the end of their L-shaped move. Their ability to fork, attack 2 pieces at once, makes them dangerous. Knights are most effective in the center where their reach is greatest. Mastering the knight's jump is a key chess skill. The bishop glides diagonally, controlling long lines across the board. Each player has 2 bishops, one for light squares, one for dark. Bishops move any number of squares diagonally, as long as the path is clear. They're strongest in open positions, pinning and pressuring from afar. Bishops capture by moving diagonally onto an enemy's square. The bishop pair is a powerful team, covering both color complexes. Free your bishops early to unleash their full potential. The queen is chess's most powerful piece, combining the moves of rook and bishop. She moves any number of squares in any direction, straight or diagonal. Her range makes her a devastating attacker and a key defender. Use her wisely. Bringing her out too early can make her a target. The king, though limited to 1 square in any direction, is the most important piece. Lose your queen and you're weakened. Lose your king, and the game is over. The king must always be protected. He can't escape danger easily. When in check, you must respond immediately to save your king. The goal checkmate trap the enemy king, so escape is impossible. Mastering queen and king movement is essential to winning. Capturing is how you weaken your opponent and clear the way for your own plans. To capture, move your piece to an enemy square using its movement rules. Rooks, bishops, queens and kings capture as they move. Knights jump to their target. Pawns are unique. They move forward but capture 1 square diagonally forward. A pawn can't capture straight ahead, only diagonally. Always look for undefended enemy pieces. These are easy targets. But don't leave your own pieces hanging, or they'll be captured in return. Every capture shifts the balance of power. Smart capturing is about timing and opportunity, not just taking pieces. Each exchange brings you closer to victory. The real goal isn't just capturing pieces, it's trapping the enemy king. When your piece attacks the king, it's called check. Your opponent must respond. There are 3 ways out: move the king, block the attack, or capture the attacker. If none are possible, it's checkmate. The game is over. You never actually capture the king, you corner him with no escape. All your strategy leads to this moment, the final checkmate. For example, if the king is trapped in the corner and your queen covers all escape squares, that's checkmate. The difference between check and checkmate is simple. Check is a warning, checkmate is the end. Always look for ways to deliver checkmate, not just checks. Understanding this is the key to winning. Trap the king and you win the game. That's the heart of chess. Chess has a special move called castling. A unique defensive maneuver where you move your king 2 squares toward a rook, and the rook jumps over to stand beside it. This move tucks your king safely behind pawns and brings your rook into action. You can only castle if neither piece has moved, the path is clear, and your king isn't in or passing through check. Mastering castling is key to a strong opening and a safe king. The second special move in chess is one of the most exciting and game-changing rules, and it revolves around our humble friend, the pawn. We talked about how the pawn is the soul of chess, always marching forward, never retreating. This rule is the ultimate reward for its long and perilous journey. If one of your pawns manages to march all the way across the board and reaches the very last rank, that is, the 8th rank for a white pawn or the 1st rank for a black pawn, it gets a massive upgrade. This magical transformation is called pawn promotion, or queening. When your pawn reaches that final rank, it is immediately, in the very same move, transformed into another piece of your choice. You can promote the pawn to a queen, a rook, a bishop, or a knight of the same color. You cannot promote it to another king, and you cannot keep it as a pawn. The new piece instantly appears on the promotion square, ready for action on the next turn. This means you can have more than 1 queen on the board at a time. In fact, you could theoretically have 9 queens if all 8 of your pawns successfully promote. Now, you have a choice of which piece to promote to. but let's be honest, in about 99% of cases, you are going to choose a queen. The queen is the most powerful piece on the board, so getting another one is almost always the best decision, and can often lead to an immediate checkmate. However, there are very rare and specific situations, known as under promotion, where promoting to a knight might be the better choice, perhaps to deliver a clever checkmate that a queen could not. For now, as a beginner, just remember this simple mantra: when a pawn promotes, make it a queen. The threat of pawn promotion is a powerful strategic weapon throughout the entire game, especially in the endgame when there are fewer pieces on the board. A single passed pawn, a pawn that has no enemy pawns blocking its path or on adjacent files, can become a terrifying monster. Your opponent will be forced to dedicate their pieces to stopping it from reaching the final rank, which can give your other pieces the freedom to create threats elsewhere. A simple pawn, worth just 1 point at the start, suddenly holds the potential to become a 9-point queen, completely swinging the game in your favor. Not every chess game ends with a winner, sometimes it's a draw. The most surprising draw for beginners is the stalemate. A stalemate happens when a player has no legal moves, but their king isn't in check. The game ends immediately in a draw. It's a crucial rule, sometimes a lifesaver, sometimes a heartbreak. Always watch for stalemate, whether you're winning or losing. Beyond the dramatic stalemate, chess has several other rules that can result in a draw, ensuring the game does not go on forever without progress. One of the most common is the threefold repetition rule. If the exact same board position, with the same player to move and the same potential moves like castling rights, occurs 3 times at any point during the game, either player can claim a draw. This prevents endless loops where players just shuffle their pieces back and forth without making any real progress. It's really a way to say, okay, we're not getting anywhere, let's call it a day. Another rule that stops games from dragging on pointlessly is the 50-move rule. This is a bit more technical but serves a similar purpose. If 50 consecutive moves are made by each player without a single pawn being moved and without a single capture being made, the game is declared a draw. This rule exists to stop situations where one player has a very minor advantage but cannot actually force a checkmate. It puts a clock on making progress. You either have to change the pawn structure or capture a piece within 50 moves, or the game is drawn. A draw can also occur due to insufficient material. This is a common-sense rule that applies when neither player has enough pieces left on the board to possibly force a checkmate. For example, if the game comes down to just a king versus a king, no one can win. Similarly, a king and a bishop against a lone king is a draw, because it is impossible to force checkmate with that combination of pieces. The game ends right there because victory is impossible for either side. It's simply a recognition that the armies are just too depleted to continue the fight to a decisive conclusion. Finally, the simplest way a game can end in a draw is by agreement. At any point in the game, a player can offer a draw to their opponent. If the opponent accepts the offer, the game immediately ends in a draw. This usually happens in positions where both players feel that the outcome is balanced, and that neither side has a realistic chance of winning without the other making a huge mistake. It is a respectful way for two players to acknowledge an equal struggle. Knowing these various draw conditions is just as important as knowing how to win, as they define all the possible conclusions to your chess journey. To play a strong chess opening, remember 3 golden rules. First, control the center with your pawns and pieces. Second, develop your knights and bishops toward the center. Third, get your king to safety by castling early. Follow these rules, and you'll build a solid foundation for every game. Once your pieces are developed and your king is safe, it's time to think tactically, turn by turn. Always ask, what is my opponent trying to do? Are they setting up an attack or targeting a piece? Look for hanging pieces, yours and theirs, before every move. Be patient with your queen, let your minor pieces lead early, and always think 1 move ahead. Anticipate your opponent's reply to stay safe and strong. Congratulations! You've completed the crash course on chess rules. You now know how every piece moves, from pawn to queen, and the goal of checkmate. You've learned castling, pawn promotion, and how games can end in a draw. Be proud, you're officially a chess player. The world of chess is open to you. Now go play and enjoy your journey. You've learned the basics. Now it's time to play. The best way to improve is to jump in, play games, and embrace every win and loss. Try online platforms or play with friends and family. Solve puzzles, watch videos, and keep learning. Welcome to the world of chess. Make your first move and have fun.